Season 2 of Modern Warfare 2 finally came out, after a predictably long first season that left the game feeling very stale. After a less than stellar launch of Warzone 2, everyone was missing small map gameplay more than ever, and the teams at Activision certainly delivered a mixed experience. Resurgence's return as Ashika Island has some really good moments. The action is faster than it is in Al Mazrah, and the game feels significantly more polished than in Season 1, but the reception still isn't all that great. Why? Because of the movement? The meta? The audio? Those are the common reasons you'll see on Twitter, but I think it has a lot more to do with the quality of life mechanics and the looting system. All of the mechanics feel a little bit rough around the edges. The game lacks polish that gives us an intuitive experience with good replay value. Let's break it down. The process of looting in Warzone 2 is kind of exhausting. The items on the ground are finicky, the backpack is incredibly clunky, and everything's kind of just white text along with an ambiguous icon. This makes looting feel more like a chore rather than a fun aspect of the game. Everything is very hectic and slow-paced. This is largely due to the overwhelming amount of reading we have to do in order to decipher whether an item is good or not. Everything kind of feels like this. Everything is just gray. You don't know what's good or not. If we had some quality of life changes made, our brains could better categorize the items to make looting feel more like this. Here's what we could easily change. The text box displayed when you hover over an item is really jarring and difficult to read. This is for a couple reasons. The box and the text are far too small for one. It's about 20% smaller than the boxes in Warzone 1, and it's less opaque, which leads to poor visibility. The font on the items is an uppercase sans serif title font, which, according to a study by Harvard, is very bad for quick readability. This is because all words have the same uniform rectangular shape, so your brain can interpret the text at a quick pace. A redesign like this makes the text far more legible, which immediately speeds up the time to read, making the gameplay much quicker as a whole. Additionally, we need to develop more patterns of value within the loot. In Warzone 1 and basically every other game right now, there's a color-coded rarity system. Common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. It's not groundbreaking at all, but it develops patterns in players' brains. There's inherent value established with a higher rarity. Those patterns are great for making an intuitive experience. The players don't need to decipher whether a gun or an item is good or not. The color coding does that for us. It makes it a far better quality of life, and speeds up all the looting and the gameplay overall. My final complaint with looting is that loot disappears into the ground altogether. Reincorporating 3D floating items like Warzone 1, Fortnite, or any other battle royale would be a much appreciated change to speed up the pace of looting. The current player HUD is awful. There's no background, it's too small, and it shows very little information. It's just an all-around step back from Warzone 1. In Resurgence especially, I want to know key information quickly without having to confer with my teammate. This quality of life feature from Warzone 1 of having a detailed and readable player HUD made the game feel polished. It breaks up the monotony of small text that we currently have and put key information in the forefront of the experience. This was a feature that just shouldn't have been rolled back from Warzone 1. Rather than asking if my teammate has a kill streak, waiting for him to respond, and then asking him to call it in, I can just say, "Hey Paul, pop your UAV." Another quality of life feature I love with the player HUD is customizable money tips. In Warzone 1, we could see when our team's balance was enough to purchase a loadout. This addition was awesome, since I'm terrible at math. I'd like to take that idea a step further and add personalized money tips. Essentially, I could be able to toggle whether I'd like it to display a loadout, a UAV, or any other buy station item. The little things like this keep the player focused on the action rather than playing a math or a looting simulator. They allow the player to experience the game, the combat, the map, rather than just constantly trying to manage the inventory. If you follow me on Twitter, which you definitely should, then you've seen my discussion with the current and new buy station designs in Warzone 2. Essentially, the item that each buy station sells changes per location. This makes the game counterintuitive, since it's kind of a gamble whether that risky trip to the buy station was worth it or not. To catalyze this feeling, each item has limited stock. Not to mention that the horizontal scrolling makes the experience utterly jarring. Here's my concept for a redesigned buy station. It's intuitive. It creates habits and muscle memory. You shouldn't have to take a gamble on whether a buy station has an item you want or not. The unpredictable nature of that makes the game less fun. Additionally, rather than trying to navigate between the gear and weapons menus, I've changed the design to be tabbing between the sections. This feels a lot more natural and will speed up the time it takes to use a buy station. This redesign makes buy stations feel more predictable, in a good way. The risk of the buy station should be whether it's safe or not whether you can navigate the menus in time. Pings, unfortunately, still suck in Warzone 2. They're tiny, they disappear for no reason, and you can't quickly tell who pinged an objective. This ultimately leads to a breakdown in team communication. The problem is that it takes time to read each ping, identify who pinged it, and then register that information. Ping redesign, similar to Warzone 1, solves these problems immediately. Pings need to be significantly larger and less transparent than they are right now. The loadout marker pings don't stay persistent on the TAC map or within the in-game HUD. This means that I have to actively search for my loadout on the map if I want to find it. It leads to me ultimately forgetting to find my loadout until it's already in the gas. The minor quality of life change of having the loadout icons be persistent, like Warzone 1, would make the game feel so much more polished and lead to significantly healthier lobbies overall. In Warzone 1, TAC map icons made a lot of sense. Yellow indicates intel, blue indicates loadout, white indicates vehicles, and green indicates buy station. That makes sense. Green means money, yellow means mission. In Warzone 2, everything is just green and white. Why? Beats me. It leads to poor readability that hinders the quality of life greatly. I can almost never find a buy station because the icon color is a light green. It blends into the vehicles for being too white and blends into the contracts for being too green. Contracts need to go back to being yellow, like now. As a result of this change, loadouts should go back to being blue. This was a poor change that made no sense. Another muscle memory thing in Warzone 2 that I hate is the scoreboard. Rather than pressing pause like in Warzone 1, you first have to open the TAC map and then tab over using L1 and R1. My squad often goes for fast action kill races, so this extra step is definitely noticeable and frustrating, especially in Resurgence. Let's bring this back to pause. We currently have all this free screen real estate on the pause menu, so it's a nice quality of life change to speed up the pace of gameplay. When you get a down or an elimination in Warzone, you get an XP pop-up that indicates what you did. Great! Unfortunately, in Warzone 2, this pop-up is in a transparent white text. As a result, it's super hard to read, especially for visually impaired people. At minimum, this text color should be changed to yellow, orange, or green. More preferably, the text should be orange, with the down text being a soft shade of red, and team white being dark red. This makes it so you don't actually have to read what you did. Your brain will just recognize the color and associate it with a specific action. Also, the cracked armor text is very distracting. Just replace it with a cracked plate icon. Bada bang, bada boom. The compass bar is difficult to read, especially if you're visually impaired. The text isn't big or bold enough, the yellow is too light and blends in with the background, and there isn't a big enough drop shadow applied on the text. As a result, the compass is very difficult to read. The compass can be a great tool to use, especially since now gunfire is only shown on the compass and not the minimap. Adding more contrast to it like this makes it far more readable. The kill, player list, and spectator counter got updated in Season 2. It's pretty nice looking, but it's way too small to read easily. Make it bigger and make the text bolder, then it's perfect. Modern Warfare 2 made a major mistake that's made the game lack an identity. There's no seasonal walking screen that indicates new content. In Modern Warfare 2019, Cold War, and Vanguard, the lobby's menu background changed seasonally, and it reflected the style of the new season. In Modern Warfare 2, it's remained this dark and depressing background since the beta. It's a major missed opportunity to add some more style points, and to promote the new content of the game. People like to say that Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 lack content, but in reality, the game just does a bad job at promoting the new content. Dynamic walking screen is a very good tool to showcase the love, the care, and the polish that goes into game dev. These are the more subtle changes that too often go under the radar. They're not as obvious as the glaring problem with the game. Everyone knows the TTK is way too fast. Audio is inconsistent at best, and top-ranking weapons like the RPK and the Finnick overstayed their welcome by several months. Resurgence didn't even launch with all squad sizes as Activision said it would. There are many changes that need to be made, and I feel assured that Raven is well aware of the big problems. However, I think it's the little things, the quality of life things, that separate a frustrating game from an awesome one.